Hi everyone, this is Masei Seki from Imaginism Studios. I'm a character designer and illustrator for film, TV, and book publishing. In this video, I'll be doing a step-by-step tutorial on how to draw a wolf. I'll be covering 4 main parts to this tutorial. First, I'll be sketching out the overall shape of the wolf as an underdrawing to help me figure out where all the parts of the body will go. Then, I'll be carving out the mass and structure of the wolf in perspective. Getting the structure down will really help solidify the drawing before you get to the fun part. And the fun part will be going over the details like fur, facial features, and adding subtle angles and overlaps to really bring the wolf to life. And lastly, once you nail the drawing of the wolf, I'll show you tips on how I draw the wolf's winter coat. As you follow this tutorial, I will highly recommend having a photo reference of a real wolf right by your side. Okay, so let's get started. So the first main part we'll be covering is the overall shape and the gesture of the wolf. Starting off with the head, draw an oval tilted to the left. Connect the top of the muzzle from the head almost as long as the oval. The shape should look long and broad, but make sure it's not as pointy as a fox's muzzle. Moving on to the ear, draw the base and create a triangle that's slanted forward and curved in the back. The neck is roughly the length of 2 of the ovals sideways. Wolves' heads don't stand as high as dogs do, so make sure the neck doesn't stand too tall. The length of the body is roughly 3 times the length of the neck and head. When we draw the back, it's going to be relatively flat. As you connect the neck to the body, make sure it looks a bit thicker because they have a lot of fur around their neck to keep them warm. And just like the same thing as the back, we're going to make the belly look flat as well. Here we'll divide the body into 3 parts, the shoulder, stomach, and hind legs. We'll make the stomach look long and the line of the leg slanted backwards. Draw the gesture of the leg with a curved front and a straight back. To find the length of the legs, plant the feet about 2 times the height of the body with an extra bit at the bottom. Position the front paws in front of the legs as triangles and make sure they look big and long. Moving on to the hind legs, draw a long S shape and connect the heel in the back as the leg tapers down. From the heel, draw the foot straight down and draw the toes. By the end, the foot should be positioned a bit behind the body. Okay, so we're going to finish off the rest of the wolf by adding the rest of the legs, staggering them a bit just so they look like they're in perspective and adding a variety to them to make them interesting. Lastly, let's add the tail, dropping it all the way down to its heels. Now that we've finished the overall shape of the wolf, let's draw on top of it by adding the mass and structure of the wolf. Starting with the head again, we're going to take the top plane and making it a bit straight, curving it down to the muzzle and straight across again. So wolves have large, broad, long heads typical for a carnivorous skull, and they actually have physically larger brains and larger teeth compared to a domestic dog. Here we'll indicate where the muzzle starts and where the nose will be located. Adding a bit of a curve, we're going to add the mass of the nose, and with a slight curve at the bottom of the mouth, we're going to indicate where the chin ends and where the mass of the mane is going to start. Here we'll block in the nose. Following the guideline of the first layer, add the neck and the ear, but adding a line in the middle of the triangle to indicate the front plane of the ear. In the back, it's going to be rounded off. After that, add the back of the ears and make sure that they're pointing forward. Draw the cheek of the wolf by starting from the ear, coming down and across back to the chin. For the eyes, let's draw a slanted diamond right above the muzzles, closer to the front of the skull. Here we'll be adding the neck following the guidelines. Moving on to the shoulder section, add a bump at the top, coming down with a straight line and curled at the bottom, which indicates where the elbow is going to be located. Following the same line, let's add the shoulder and mass out where the shoulder and the elbow are separated. From here, let's follow the guideline again and add the forearms. Make the forearms a bit thicker from the top and it tapers downwards. To find where the wrist is, it's roughly 2/3 down the arm. Mass out a tube as a hand jutting out forward. And the palm will follow the guidelines again and add a top plane to the paw. The shape of the paw is almost kind of like a shape of a puck. Here we'll indicate where the chest is, right behind the front paws, and following the same thing as the previous leg, we'll draw the same thing. Moving on to the back, we're going to go draw a straight line across and stop where the hip is going to be. It's going to slant downwards back to the tail. Starting from the chest, the belly is going to tuck up a bit as it goes towards the hind legs. From the top of the hip, let's go straight down to the knee, right where the belly is. Indicate the back of the leg with a slight curve. And again, let's taper the leg all the way down to its heels. Keep in mind that the heel should be located a bit above the wrist And the heel should have a pretty sharp corner as it comes down from its feet. So for the back toes, it's going to be almost the same shape but smaller in size. And let's quickly add the back of the feet. And last but not least, let's add the tail. So now that the basic shape and overall mass of the wolf is finished, let's add the fur and all the details. With the top of the head plane very flat, carefully add the little curve where it connects to the muzzle. And from the muzzle, it has a little small bump right before it reaches the nose. And right where the muzzle is, I like to add a little overlap. When you're drawing the nose, make sure it's not too pointy at the tip. And to this big nose, we'll add the hole in the front. So from the nose, the mouth is going to come a bit backwards. The mouth is going to tuck up a bit and then straight across, right back to where the eyes are, but not past it. And then draw the line a bit thicker to indicate where the lips are. Keep in mind that wolves' lips don't hang over their mouth as much as dogs do, so we'll keep the chin looking thin. And here, let's indicate where the mane starts with some overlap. Wolves' faces are very expressive, so let's add some lines. When drawing out the eye, let's draw the top plane, the bottom plane, and the eyeball, kind of like the shape of a quarter of a pie. Let's draw out the rest of the eyes by filling in that diamond behind the eye into all black. And let's add the line of the iris. And here I'm going to add some lines so it can help me understand the structure and also adding features that makes it more wolf-like. Okay, next we'll add the details to the ears. When you're drawing the ear, subtle angles and overlaps really helps make the ear come to life. Wolves have magnificent hearing, so they have big triangular ears. They are rounded and much broader and shorter than a fox's ear. The backside of the ear tends to have shorter fur, and then the inside, the ear is full of long fur, so make sure you draw that when you do it. So following the guideline, let's make the mane look pretty full with fur. Make sure the lines have different lengths and directions to them. And to finish off the head, we're going to add the rest of the ear, some lines to the muzzle, and some whiskers. So now that we're done the head, we're going to add the neck and the mane of the wolf. So when you're doing this, we're going to add lots of fur, but don't go too crazy on it or else it's going to look too confusing. So since the wolf actually has a lot of fur, it's going to go a bit out of the guideline that we first created. The areas I like to add the detail of the fur is closer to the edge. I like to think of the neck as a sphere. So when the plane is turning away from me, that's when I'm going to see all the detail of the fur. And here we're going to do the same thing for the shoulders and the back. And where the shoulder is, I'm going to accentuate that to make an overlap. And where the elbow is going to go, the fur is going to bunch up a bit and stick out. And here we're going to make an overlap of the arm from the shoulders and adding a subtle curve down the arm. We're going to stop it at where the wrist is. Continue adding a bit of fur behind the back of the arm. And as you go down to the wrist, there will be a little pad that's sticking right out. And following the guideline again, let's go down to the feet. So here, let's draw the paws. So when drawing the fingers of the paws, they're kind of like little triangular shapes. For wolves specifically, the front paws have two large protruding toes, and the general rule is that their paws look more bony than a dog's. And since their claws don't retract, we're going to draw them dark right at the tip of their toes. So now we're going to move to the back leg, and when we draw the back leg, interestingly, wolves have 5 toes in the front and 4 in the back. The 5th toe is called the dew claw, and actually doesn't touch the ground, so make sure it doesn't match up with all the other toes. For the back, add a subtle dip down to the hip, and where the hip meets, it's going to go back up and down back to the tail. The fur for the stomach is directed backwards, and as it goes towards the legs, it actually changes direction to the opposite way. Here I'm adding the lines to show the form of a muscle in the back that can be pretty visible in a wolf. Here we're going to indicate the hips, and as it goes down to the knee, the fur is long so it sticks out. For the leg, the main furry part is the top section. So everything below that will have short fur. So for the toes, we're going to do the same thing as the front. The only difference is that they only have 4 in the back, and they're smaller in size. And lastly, we're going to make the tail look full and furry. And before finishing it off completely, we're going to add some different line weights to areas that overlap, parts that have protruding bones, and adding or removing any fur where I feel like is needed. And here we have a finished drawing of a wolf. I hope that was easy to follow. If you want to change it up and draw the wolf with a winter coat, it'll be pretty easy since you have the basic drawing of the wolf nailed down. Since wolves need to endure the harsh winters, the outer fur of the wolf will get much thicker and fuller. So taking the final drawing of the wolf, you can go over on top with more fur around the neck, shoulders and back, around the legs, stomach, tail and toes. Keeping all these areas in mind, you want to draw a variety of lines and shapes to make the wolf look fuller. You can see how I draw chunks of fur in different sizes and strands with different lengths. And even areas like the legs and toes have a bunch of short lines closely together to make it look fuzzier. But like I mentioned before, don't go too overboard with the fur or the structure of the wolf will get ruined. And this is what a wolf's fur will look like, from summer coat to winter coat. And that's the end of my tutorial on how to draw a wolf. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you to learn and understand my method of drawing wolves. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to have fun with it.